farm economy that's strong. You've got to have hospitals. Medicaid cuts. 10 Minnesota hospitals, 10 Minnesota clinics have been closed across our state. So it's all an ecosystem that supports rural America.
Lieutenant Governor.
So we certainly think that we need to invest in infrastructure, roads, bridges, and so many of those costs, I think, can be shared by the federal government making these investments. But what I'd also say is that we are in a moment where it feels like a setup for folks. People want to be able to just afford their lives. And so when you have to drive further to see the doctor, or when you're trying to access, maternity care, and famously, right, babies come exactly on time with zero problems, right? This again becomes an obstacle for people to be able to put down roots in the communities where they want to live. So that's access to health care, to child care, to good schools, to jobs and opportunities. This is something that we all should value and should all be fighting to invest in. And that's the lens through which I see all of this work. We can't look at an individual. We have to look at the whole family, the whole community, and that should be our approach.
Michelle Tafoya.
I think it all begins in one place, and that is with all of you succeeding, no matter what kind of commodity you're producing, no matter what you're doing. Maybe you own a trucking company. We want to see you, I want to see you succeed. And it's going to take a partnership, a public-private partnership, to make that happen. And it starts, I'm saying it again and again. I know this gets redundant, but yes, we do need year-round E15. We need less regulation. You cannot be bogged down by so much. You know what? I talked to a farmer, and he has operations in 6 states. And I asked him, which is the easiest state to do business in? And he said, Arizona, because they have a set of laws and rules, and as long as I follow those rules and check them off, I'm good. Until I break a rule, I'm good. I said, which is the toughest? He said, Minnesota. Because I jumped through hoop after hoop after hoop, and if I'm going to plan to build business, I don't know if that license or permit or whatever is going to take 18 months or 4 years. We've got to make it easier for you folks. We've got to partner up and make your lives easier so that you can prosper, period.
Candidate White.
I apologize. I'm not a polished politician. I'm not a good-looking young lady like my opponents here. I just tell it like it is, and I know it's hard to hear. A few questions back. I just couldn't believe my ears. The Democrats at the table said they went after Big Pharma until it was time to mandate vaccines, and they turned on the money printers for Big Pharma. I know. That's what I'm talking right there. You can hear pin drop over there in the Commie-crat section. As soon as they mandated vaccines, you turned on a money printer for the most unequal distribution of capital and market power in the entire economy, which is Big Pharma and the insurance companies. Way to go, Democrats. As far as SNAP and healthcare go, you can give a man a fish or you can teach a man to fish. The fundamental philosophy of the Democrats and the communists are to give a man a fish over and over and over until they no longer remember how to fish for themselves. And that's a problem culturally, and it becomes a problem economically. Thank you.
Lieutenant Governor Flanagan, you're up first for this question. What is your message to farmers and landowners concerned about farmland being used for solar farms or data centers?
So I'd say a couple things. I think it's really important that high-quality farmland is used to farm. We have 53% of our land here in Minnesota is for agriculture, and we have to make sure that it continues to be viable. Here's my biggest question for any of these investments is who benefits? Because right now, as we see these data centers being stood up, the folks who are benefiting are these AI tech billionaires like Elon Musk, or Mark Zuckerberg, and surrounding communities are being left to fit the bill in high energy costs, right? Or also, putting the water quality of their local communities at risk. We can do better. And this is one of the places where I think there is a lot of bipartisan agreement that data centers and these investments should these investments should be good for the people of Minnesota, and folks shouldn't be left foot in the bill for these people who are making money hand over fist.
Candidate Tafoya.
I think that with both of these things, you've got to bring it local. You've got to let landowners and the local communities have a voice in these decisions. I've talked to people who say land is very tough to access right now. And I'm driving around, whether it's Northfield or here or wherever I happen to be, and I see these massive solar farms. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, solar has yet to be proven to be completely dependable around the clock, which we should all expect. And what are they? They're saying that they want to promote wildlife areas, but they're covering these fields with these, quite frankly, ugly solar farms where I don't even know where these solar panels are made. I'm guessing they're not made here. And so then what happens when they're not good anymore? What do you do with the stuff? You take it all out. Where does it go? Does it just become waste? So we're in this circular situation. Look, bottom line, landowners need to be consulted. Communities need to be consulted when their land is going to be used by any of these big establishments.
Royce White.
No, I'm the extremist, so I'll just start by saying, as a symbolic gesture, just to throw a bone to the American farmers, we should strip the Chinese Communist Party of every piece of farmland they have in this country. The CCP, I know, I keep looking to this Democrat section to see if there's any bipartisan diplomacy to be had, and there's none. We're way past diplomacy. No, seriously, everybody's understand. We're way past diplomacy. These people will hand your country to your national mortal enemy, and they'll tell you to like it. They've done that. They've done it in business. They've done it in farming. They've gave your financial capital, the world's financial capital, to a jihadist Marxist named Mamdani. They will give your country to your enemies because they are suffering from suicidal empathy. The nexus between radical left Marxism, like my opponents at the end of the table, and radical Islam is the propensity to self-destruction and suicide. We have to make a choice. Are we going to let these people kill this country and us along with it? Thank you.
Representative Craig.
Well, look, there's no doubt that we have to have local communities involved from the start. And look, at the federal level, I support a number of reforms. I'll tell you about those. But like at the local level, transparency should be key. No big tech company should be able to start a conversation about an AI data center without involving the local community. And at the federal level, I think the tech companies should have to foot every single dollar of the bill for their energy cost if they're going to build in a community, and that we should require that under federal law. I also believe that we should require every single big tech company to build those data centers water neutral. We cannot risk the water, the Great Lakes of the state of Minnesota. Look, no one should tell Minnesota farmers exactly what they should do with their land, but what I will tell you is that right now, data centers are way over their skis, and we got to put some restrictions on them.
One more round of questions before we move into closing comments. And this has to do with higher retail prices at the grocery store that we're all feeling. My question, and we'll start with candidate DeFoya. What's the balance needed to support U.S. beef producers while at the same time bringing down retail prices?
Yeah, again, talking with beef producers while I was here, it's just a constant struggle of those stacking up of regulations. Like, I think a lot of people are okay, you say, okay, give me something finite. Give me something finite I have to deal with. Like, how much are you going to tax me? But, oh, those regulations continue to stack up, and they sneak up on you, and suddenly you can't do what you want to do anymore. So I'll tell you one thing that won't work. Community, public-run grocery stores like Mamdani is opening in New York. Those are not going to work. Okay, that is not the way. I just feel so strongly about supporting the agricultural community and your right to produce in a way that is legal, in a way that is clean and safe, and you are the ultimate conservationist. You don't need to be told how to do that. And in a way that allows you to expand domestically and overseas and prosper. That's it. That's why I'm running. I want to be there for you. I want to partner with you.
Candidate White.
Again, I'll say, I come from the cities, but Minnesota is only a stone's throw from rural Minnesota anyway. We have that luxury. I didn't come here to kiss the farming community's ass. I didn't. The reason is you're the backbone of this country, whether we like it or not. Your work, your role, your fundamental role in this country justifies itself. Yes, your work justifies itself, but the question is, do you believe that? And I'm just going to take a second to say something unrelated to beef prices, because we're running for United States Senate. Everybody talks about how politics don't work in this country. We want to see things change, but we vote in the incumbents 95% of the time. Incumbent, recruited by the incumbents. When you start voting in outsiders, you have a shot in hell of actually changing something. And until that becomes a fundamental part of our culture, you can expect the exact same set of BS answers that get you none of the results you are interested in.
Candidate Craig.
Look, it's a significant issue. People are having to choose between buying groceries and paying the rent or the mortgage in our country. And so, look, I always have a great dialogue with my beef cattle producers. Your pricing has been terrific. It's been great. But in order to protect many of these markets, we have to make sure that USDA has a strong program for animal and plant health. And the truth is that this administration, in 1 year's time, cut 25% of the APHIS staff across America, including many, many, many in Minnesota. We also can't forget that, HPAI is still out there. And so when you don't have a vaccine strategy, when you don't have the scientists there to make sure that New World screwworm can be controlled, these are the realities. It is the federal government's responsibility to make sure that we are keeping our farming community going. And without the investment in animal health, you see situations like New World screwworm. They actually cut a program to control it in Central America before the outbreak here in this country. That is the role of the federal government.
Candidate Flanagan.
Well, I know that families are struggling, and I have watched in line at Cub a mom turn to her kiddo and ask her to put something back on the shelf because they didn't have enough money. This is real, and it is real for so many folks, and we want people to be able to buy beef. And I'll tell you, sending $40 billion to Argentina is not how we get there. This has been impossible for folks with tariffs and everything else that people are navigating, not to mention what Congresswoman Craig just talked about, the APHIS program. You shouldn't have to worry about screwworm, and frankly, it was eradicated for a really long time. These cuts have consequences. to people's health, but also to their bottom line. I think we can absolutely do better, and it is, again, time to support folks in, restoring these markets, building new markets, but that also means funding infrastructure so people can actually do their damn jobs.
For closing comments, we'll start at the far end of the table. Royce White, you have 2 minutes.
Can I do that? Can I do this? Who knows what the rules are? No rules anymore in America. Apropos to the problem, right? I'm running for United States Senate for obvious reasons. Your country is in shambles, and it starts with your United States Senate, who is supposed to be the most deliberative body in the world. They're the most deliberately corrupt body in the world. They don't value your citizenship. And if you don't value your citizenship, then I'm not your candidate. But if you do, I will go to this United States Senate and fight the deep state, which I'm sure nobody else will mention before the debate is over. Fight the deep state until they scream uncle. Now, before I go, I'd be remiss not to say, the sanctity of life is a building block of all of our foundations about morals and ethics. And when you pull out that Jenga piece, the sanctity of life, the value of a human life, everything else naturally falls apart. And we have in this country made every excuse possible to walk away from the values and the beliefs that made this country great in the first place, and that is our, if you want to say, Judeo-Christian ethic. So just by a show of standing in here, if you stand for the sanctity of life, please stand now. If you stand for the sanctity of life, stand now. There's only one candidate on this stage that stands for the sanctity of life, and there's your poll.
Michelle Tafoya.
So I'm going to let the attackers attack, and that's fine. That tells me that I'm probably doing a couple things that are over the target. I want to tell you something. I wasn't recruited to run for anything. I've been thinking about this for years. And
Please show some respect.
that's nice. I've thought about this for years, and every candidate on this stage knows what it takes and how hard this is. Why would I choose to put myself, my family, on the line this way? Everyone goes through this stuff, and you know why I made that choice? So I could represent Minnesota better. We have not had great representations here in the state in St. Paul. Certainly they've let us down with the frauds. Certainly they have. And are we going to teach our kids? I have two, 20 and 17. Are we going to teach them that it's okay to allow fraud, to embarrass our taxpayers, to steal from the people who actually need it, and to hollow out programs because some people wanted your cash? They wanted your cash, they stole your cash, and some people let this happen. Do they deserve promotions? Do they deserve raises? Look, we can do so much better. And it starts with integrity. And it starts with being able to put yourself out there and say, I'm going to take the barbs, I don't care, because there are some basic, fundamental, common sense things in Minnesota that have to get straightened out. I do know the difference between a man and a woman. And men should not be playing in women's sports, period, the end. And we don't need to give 4-year-olds dolls so that they can interchange parts and try to figure out who they really are. Every child is born perfect, and I want to represent and partner with every one of you. That's why I'm running for Senate.
Peggy Flanagan.
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity to be here with you today. Thank you, Farm Fest. Thanks, Mark, and thanks for keeping us on time. You know, I'm running to make sure that people can afford the lives they want to live. I'm a kid who grew up on the margins. SNAP is what kept food on the table for my family. Medicaid is why I'm alive today. The Child Care Assistance Program allowed my mom to go back to school. She got her certificate in phlebotomy, and that helped to lift our family into the middle class. That is a Minnesota story. And I want to be really clear that we need to make sure that we have a whole lot more Minnesota stories where people can afford their lives. And when I think about what we can do here together, it's simply to make sure that farmers can do their job. The instability, the chaos that is happening in Washington, D.C., you shouldn't have to navigate that in addition to navigating the weather and these drought conditions. We should make it easier for you to be able to make a living. And that's what I want to continue to do and continue to support. I want young farmers. I want beginning farmers. I want folks to see a future for themselves in agriculture. That is the work that's ahead of us today. But what it's going to take is people who are looking at the whole family, the whole community, and that will absolutely value our independent family farmers. I think you should have access to health care, and I think universal health care is the way to go. I think you should have access to child care in your community, things like paid family and medical leave and raising wages. But what I also know is that these big corporations, I'm not taking a dime of corporate PAC money because I want to be beholden to you as Minnesotans and no one else. And we've got some folks who are leaving the United States Senate. Tina Smith, who's retiring, and Senator Klobuchar, that I think's got a pretty good shot at being our next governor. Those are two leaders who are serving on the Ag Committee. I am eager to serve on the Ag Committee and want to champion the voices of Minnesota's farmers in Washington, D.C. I'm Peggy Flanagan. I ask for your support and I ask for your vote. Thank you so much.
Angie Craig.
Well, thank you. Family farmers and working families in this country right now are both hurting. You know, my grandfather was a farm foreman. He lost his job in the 1980s when the farmer lost the farm. I know what it's like to live in a family where that happens. Right now in the Midwest, farm bankruptcies are up 70%. I came back from my last election as one of the least senior members of the Democratic Party, and I ran for ranking member of the House Ag Committee because I wanted to fight for every single one of you in farm country and in rural communities. You know, I've always called the balls and strikes. Farm bankruptcies, 70%. This is no golden age in agriculture, nor is it a golden age for farm families. You know that. And I know many of you in this room, you didn't vote for what you're getting out of Washington. You didn't vote for the illegal tariffs. I sure didn't. You didn't vote for a war in Iran that's driving up diesel costs as well as fertilizer costs. You didn't vote to end our international markets and piss off our best friends when it comes to international trade. You didn't vote to make sure that every time E15 gets to the finish line, Donald Trump and Republicans cave to big oil. You know, we are in a spiral right now of ad hoc assistance in the farm economy. What we need is good farm policy, not ad hoc assistance. We've got to stand up to the ag monopolies in our sector. I grew up, too, a lot like Peggy, the child of a single mom. I've worked for 8 years, only been elected for 8 years, to make sure that family farmers have a seat at the table. I'm the head of the Ag Committee for the House. I will definitely be on the Ag Committee in the Senate, and I would love to have your support on or before August 11th. Thank you.
All right, you've been listening live to the U.S. Senate Candidate Forum happening there at Farm Fest in Redwood County, Minnesota. Our very own Corin Hoggard has been there all day listening to the candidates. There was also a gubernatorial forum this morning. Corin, big day in Morgan, Minnesota.
Yeah, it's a big day for politics there, at least. The gubernatorial forum and then this U.S. Senate forum. There was a lot of politics talk in that Wicks Center there, in the center of Farm Fest there throughout the day. And yeah, I mean, they're looking at all the issues that are really important to farmers, who are a big portion of the economy here and the population of Minnesota. And this is one place where the candidates really have to answer those questions.
Yeah, so candidates making a big push for rural voters. How important is that rural vote come next Tuesday?
Well, it depends on, which primary you're running in, right? I think it's important in both, but it's a more important factor in the GOP primaries. And so when you're talking about, the gubernatorial forum, there was only one DFLer up there, and that was Amy Klobuchar. But when you're talking about Mike Lindell and Kendall Qualls and Lisa Damon, it definitely will benefit their campaigns if they actually had any impact today with the ag community. And I mean, I'm not sure that any of them really separated themselves all that much. I know they kind of tried to do that with kind of the degree to which they're outsiders in the case of Qualls and Lindell, and just Lisa Damon talking about what she's been able to do as Speaker of the House and try to help farmers in that way. But, I talked to a few GOP voters afterwards who were not convinced that anybody was going to change their votes based on what they heard today.
Interesting. What about fraud? They talked about fraud quite a bit in both those forums. How did that take center stage?
Yeah, I mean, the question didn't even have to be about fraud, and the GOP candidates would bring it up, especially in the Senate forum. Not as much in the gubernatorial forum. The fraud was one of the topics of discussion. I mean, the connection between fraud and voters is real. The connection between fraud and the ag community is relatively limited, except in as much as it really applies to everybody in Minnesota. But all three of the gubernatorial candidates from the GOP side, said that, this is unacceptable. Amy Klobuchar said it's unacceptable. She has laid out her plan as well. But I got to say, Kendall Qualls, Lisa Damon especially, were both hammering on that issue. Kendall Qualls compared it to, his time in the military, and that somebody would be, court-martialed for what they did here, or his time in the business community. And people would be fired if not criminally charged in a lot of these situations. And that means not the people who committed the fraud, but the people who allowed it. And so they all say, without a lot of specifics, they say that they would be the one.
What about sorry if I cut you off. You're breaking up a bit. I thought you finished your sentence there. So I'm sorry for the audio issues. Okay. I think we lost Corin. He's on the road back from Redwood County, Minnesota. So the connection seems to be a little dicey there. Let's drop him so I don't have to listen to him in my ear. Okay. All right, we are going to go to a break really quick, see if we can connect back with Corin, get a better audio connection, because he has a lot of good insight into both of those forums that were taking place today at Farm Fest. Welcome back. Before the break, we were chatting with our very own Corin Hoggard, who's been down at Farm Fest in Morgan, Minnesota, all morning and afternoon. His connection was a little unstable, so we're just waiting for him to get to a better location where we know that we can hear him clearly, because he's got some great insight to share with us from those candidate forums that were happening there this afternoon. Right now, I want to take you out to a live picture that we've got at Target Field. So hundreds of Target Field concession workers are walking off the job today, timing a one-day strike with tonight's sold-out Noah Kahan concert. Do we have that shot, guys? I think that one of our photojournalists was in the middle of an interview with a union worker. Let's just take a listen in to that interview.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for the nonprofits, there's a good, out of the 300 and some of the concession workers that it normally takes to fill the stadium on a full concert like tonight, 2/3 of those are being filled by nonprofits. So I mean, that's a lot of jobs that could be going to union workers, but instead they've been going to these nonprofits, and they've been getting, on average, we've heard from some of them that work for these, on average $35 an hour. Yeah, so I mean, and then they don't want to give our people $22 an hour. It's just, it's not right. And for the unfair labor practices, on Thursday, the company had the managers read us a statement and pretty much implying that if we went on strike, our jobs would be replaced. And that's just illegal. I mean, it's intimidation. They've been doing a lot of those things, spreading misinformation to our workers and stuff, and it's just not right. They're acting in bad faith, and all we want is fair wages and health care, and get rid of these MPOs, because we think they're a threat to good union-paying jobs.
These are both full-time and part-time jobs, or are these full-time or part-time?
Well, it's only for the season. They're seasonal, because actually I shouldn't say that. Some of the people do work year-round. The warehouse people and such, they do work year-round. So some of our people are full-time year-round, but the majority of people only work during the baseball season. So for the 6 months, and just to educate the public on what we want for our health care, we're looking for all of the stadiums to pay into a health trust, where if you qualify for hours through cumulatively for working for any of the stadiums, you'll qualify for the insurance. Our hotel brands, our major hotel brands, the Hilton, Marriott, IHG have all done this already with the hotels, the union hotels. They have a hotel trust fund for healthcare. So the on-call people that work for them can qualify for insurance after working 23 hours a week. So we're trying to get something similar for the stadium fund, because a lot of the people that work at one stadium, they work at all of them, because you need to be flexible. You need, there's this myth out there that these are like, high school jobs or whatever. And the thing is I don't know too many high school kids that can work a 12:30 baseball game in April. There just isn't. It's not true. People need to be flexible, and that's why we want the ability to get affordable health care.
See if my shot's still here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you feel at all optimistic that this is going to get your message across here? Or?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. I mean, every time we've done an action like this, we've gotten more attention. We put more pressure. I mean, the last one, after the last strike, they came back a little more conciliatory with negotiating with us, where before they were very hardball and didn't really want to negotiate. And since then, we've gotten the city council to pass a resolution that the Twins and Delaware North should negotiate with us and give us a good contract. And after that, we have the Attorney General move on the nonprofits, and I mean, these are his words, not mine. That he believes these MPOs are operating illegally within the state. So I mean, little by little, we're we're plugging away. I mean, we had hoped that the IATSE, the stagehand union, would join us today in shutting down the concert. Something happened, I'm not sure. That's on them. You can ask them why. It's a little, but still we're here. We're here to fight, and we're not going to stop till we get our contract.
This isn't the first time that you've had to go on strike, though. I see where.
All right, you've been listening live to a union representative there outside Target Field. Hundreds of Target Field concession workers are walking off the job today, timing this one-day strike with the sold-out Noah Khan show that's taking place at Target Field tonight. This labor action follows a very similar strike that they did in June when the Twins played the Los Angeles Dodgers. As you heard that union representative there say, they are asking for higher wages and better benefits. We're going to continue to keep our eye on that strike happening outside Target Field. We'll continue to bring you live pictures throughout our show. But for now, I do want to switch gears because just a short while ago, we were talking to our very own Corin Hoggard, who is down in Farm Fest earlier today. Farm Fest has been taking place in Redwood County, and it's where agriculture meets politics. So this morning, they had a governor's forum. This afternoon, they had a forum with all the candidates that are running for U.S. Senate. And Corin Hoggard was there taking it all in. Corin, I'm sorry that we lost you for a little bit, but that's live television for you.
Not only live television, but that's out in rural communities where the Wi-Fi is not great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm sorry to make you repeat yourself, but I had been asking you about fraud. It was a topic that came up in both the U.S. Senate forum and the governor's forum. You were touching on how it was more of a topic with the Senate candidates, I believe. So just recap that again for me. Sorry to make you repeat yourself.
No, that's great. Yeah, I mean, in the gubernatorial forum, all three of the Republicans were really hammering on it, especially though Lisa Dameth and Kendall Qualls. Amy Klobuchar said that she was going to do a top-down audit of the state government to kind of eliminate it. But, the Senate forum was more focused on it, and I think I mentioned that it didn't really matter what the question was. Oftentimes they would bring up fraud, the two GOP candidates, Michelle Tafoya and Royce White. But I think that, they did get into the substance of it, especially in the gubernatorial forum, because it's more of something in the purview of the governor than a U.S. senator. And so, Amy gets into, very, minute details there. Lisa Dameth has been in there and trying to institute some measures to prevent fraud. And she mentioned some of them specific to Brown County, which is adjacent to Redwood. The folks there in Morgan, Minnesota have been represented by Paul Torkelson, who has been, pretty key on the GOP side in getting some anti-fraud measures put in. And Lisa Dameth leaned on her association with Representative Torkelson. Kendall Qualls was talking about how, in his military experience, this would be something that get people court-martialed. In his business experience, this would be something that would got people fired if they could not prevent it, if they hadn't, implemented the measures that they need to block this fraud from happening, that was going on for years here.
Did Peggy Flanagan at all talk about the fraud? Because I know that she has been a target, even from her opponent in the Democratic Party, Angie Craig, because she was lieutenant governor when the fraud was taking place. Did she address the fraud and how she might handle it as if she wins the primary?
I mean, I can tell you that that's something that Representative Angie Craig has been hitting against Peggy with on the in the primary campaign, and that's something that Michelle Tafoya mentioned without being asked about fraud. And but if the forum actually addressed that specific topic with Peggy Flanagan, I was in transition, moving from being at the forum to leaving, so I didn't hear that question. Again, not something that the U.S. Senator really has in their purview to prevent the fraud that was going on here in Minnesota. But yeah, definitely a valid point to be asking the lieutenant governor, who was part of the administration, when all of this was going on.
Well, what about the Farm Bill and SNAP benefits? I know that that was conversation, at least I heard it in the U.S. Senate forum. I might have missed it in the governor's forum. But because you're in rural Minnesota, because you're in an agricultural setting, I know that the Farm Bill came up as well as SNAP benefits. What was said on those topics?
Yeah, and the SNAP benefits were part of the one big, beautiful bill that came up quite frequently on the the Democrats' side. Angie Craig has been working on the Farm Bill on the House side a bit. And Senator Klobuchar said that she literally came to Farm Fest from negotiations on the Farm Bill. One of the things she mentioned specifically was that they were going to try to fix the hemp issue, which is, something that this, THC beverage industry that you and I both know pretty well has just blossomed in the state of Minnesota. November is really the cutoff date for that if they don't change the law that passed last November. And so that's something that Amy said that they were working on. As far as the SNAP benefits, again, that's something that Senator Klobuchar kind of mentioned sets her apart from the GOP opponents, is that she has spoken out against the cuts to SNAP that have really, done some damage to farmers here. She's the one who's also spoken out against the tariffs and the war in Iran, and doing anything to criticize Donald Trump, who she blames for much of the problems that farmers have been facing here in the last year. And she got heckled a little bit, but she was also applauded quite a bit. And I think that it's hard to tell. It's a partisan room. There are a lot of people there specifically to support specific candidates. But it did seem like there were some folks who were there independently who were at least willing to engage in that kind of that thought that farmers have overwhelmingly supported President Trump in elections, but we've been hearing over the last year or so that they don't believe that they're better off based on some of those policies. And so Senator Klobuchar was definitely pounding on those, and so were Angie Craig and Peggy Flanagan.
Yeah, we certainly heard both cheers and jeers in the crowd there today. I know I asked you this before we lost connection with you, but how important is that rural vote for these candidates in 2026?
Yeah, depends on which primary you're in, how important it is. It's important to both, but I think it's more important in the GOP primaries, again, because in recent decades, farmers have tended to be GOP voters. That's shifted since my childhood, but it's definitely something that is true today. And so, if you're Mike Lindell, Kendall Falls, or Lisa Dameth, like today's performance is really something that you would be putting a star on and trying to make sure that you convince some folks between now and Tuesday that you deserve their votes. But I think I did mention earlier also, I talked to several GOP voters I know who were there who said that, they don't think that forum is going to change a lot of folks' minds about who to vote for.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting with the cost of fuel, the cost of fertilizer. Under this administration, it'll be interesting to see how the rural community in Minnesota votes. So thank you so much, Corin. I appreciate you for joining us. Thanks for your hard work today in Redwood County.
I got one more thing for you relating to your last story. Noah Kahn was at Otter Saloon in Northeast Fresno a couple nights ago. I don't think he sang karaoke, but he was there listening to other people sing.
Wow. What was he doing in Fresno? Did he have a show and then he showed up to the Otter Saloon?
Did I say Fresno? Oh, I'm sorry. Northeast Minneapolis. Northeast Minneapolis. Dang. 17 years in Fresno, and I'm still calling it Northeast Minneapolis. Okay. It's Fresno now. No, right there on Hennepin and what is it? First or something like that. There's
really?
Old saloon that's a great karaoke bar, and he was there on Monday night, but I don't believe he was singing. My sources say he wasn't actually singing. He was just applauding other people singing.
Wow, super cool to see a star out in the wild and at a local bar. So very cool. Thanks for that little tidbit, Corin. All right. Corin Hoggard, our Fox 9 political reporter. Always appreciate him joining the show. Okay, I am hearing that we also have our reporter who's covering the St. Paul encampment sweeps on the line. So as we have been talking about all week, crews began clearing the Pig's Eye Park encampment this morning. That started at 8 a.m. And that marks the start of city's plans to close several large homeless encampments across the city due to health and safety concerns. That's what city leaders say is the reason behind this. They say they've invested more than $1 million to expand the shelter beds and outreach services. But opponents to these sweeps say that the closures will simply push these individuals to different parks and parts of the city without enough permanent housing options. They also worry about how outreach will happen when these people get displaced. So I want to take it out to Emily Pofel, who has been out there at the Pig's Eye Park encampment closure and is on the ground. Emily, thanks for making the time to talk to us.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so you've been down there. Give us, you're the eyes and ears as for how this sweep went today. Give us the sights and sounds of what was happening at Pig's Eye Park.
Absolutely. So outreach groups showed up actually before the sun did here at the encampment this morning, because we knew that city and county people were going to be showing up at 8 to start the clearing. And my assessment of the situation, based on the month of kind of backlash that the city and county have received and the protesters that we've seen of these encampments, the clearing thus far has been pretty peaceful, all things considered. We haven't seen a lot of actual physical clashes, any physical clashes between the people that were here protesting and the city and the county workers actually going in and starting to clean things up, getting people moved out of the Pig's Eye Park here and into somewhere else. It's very noisy. There are lots of trucks going in and out. You can see that there's, like a truck leaving back there. Police have got the area blocked off just so that they can kind of keep control of who's coming in and out. I think they don't want a whole lot of extra vehicles here, so that the service vehicles can get in and out, the ones that are actually moving the equipment. They've got a couple little bulldozers. They haven't, to my knowledge, done a whole lot of destroying of anything yet. We've just seen people getting their stuff hauled out. We've seen some trucks carrying out mattresses. We've seen people leaving on foot. We've seen people leaving in cars. We're still trying to figure out, though, where everyone is headed to at this point.
And that's what I wanted to ask you, because homeless advocates have said that this sweep will just push these individuals to other neighborhoods, other parks. Are there any that have refused to leave, and where do they go now? Do we know how many have accepted shelter beds? How many have chosen to stay? What do you know?
We asked a lot of those questions of the assistant mayor. He held a little presser earlier this afternoon, just about, I want to say, an hour and a half ago or so. And when I asked him at that point how many people are still in the encampment, he said 20 to 30. Reporters there also asked him, are you keeping track of where people are going? How many have been moved to shelter? How many have refused? He said that they don't have an exact number for how many from the encampment have been moved to a shelter at this point. And in talking to the shelter owners, like I have been this afternoon, they kind of don't expect a huge influx of people from the encampment right away. Of course, you never know, this doesn't happen that often. So they are ready and prepared for anything, they say. But I was just on the phone with them, and they were saying that, sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get people that have been in an encampment that are comfortable in this situation, take some time to get them comfortable going to a shelter. So like Catholic Charities was expecting maybe we'll have a handful of people show up for a meal or two. And then once they get used to coming to Catholic Charities for a meal, then they'll think, okay, maybe this time I'll try out the shelter bed and staying the night. So it's a process that certainly does not end today. The process certainly didn't start today either. People have been out here all month and even before that trying to get people into housing. So there's still a lot, I think, that's yet to be seen of like how this is going to shake out.
Yeah, that's really interesting insight from those shelters. This is the first of 3 major closures. I'm curious if the city today gave you a timeline for the closure of those other 2 encampments at Shepherd Road and then at the Kmart.
We also asked about that. They said that they do not have a date picked for either of those closures. They said that's mainly because they want to see how this one goes. They want to see how long it takes shelters in the area to adjust to that, or to adjust to the potential influx of people coming from here. And so they're going to kind of see how today goes, see how long it takes people to get settled, and then they're going to come out with these other 2 encampment closure dates. And we're waiting basically for more information from the city on that.
Okay, lastly, Mayor Kali Her was absent from this today. An assistant mayor addressed the media instead. This was her initiative. Many believe that she's maybe trying to avoid the media because of recent sexual harassment allegations. But were you able to ask where the mayor was?
Yeah, it was the last question. We snuck in at the very end of the press conference. And I did. I just said, why isn't the mayor the one here talking today? And the assistant mayor's response was that she still has a city to run, but that she's very plugged in. And I was looking around on her social media. She did just a couple hours ago post a photo of her sitting in some kind of operations room, looked like with some St. Paul police officials, talking about how she is monitoring what's going on here at the camp. And that's exactly what the assistant mayor echoed as well, is that she very much is paying attention to what's going on, even if she's not physically here.
Her absence was certainly noticed, though. We do know that she has on her calendar, at least tomorrow, she's supposed to be at a groundbreaking for a mixed-use apartment community. We'll see if she shows up. I'm sure we'll be there to ask all those questions. So, Emily Poefel, I so appreciate your reporting. Thanks so much.
Anytime.
All right, great reporting from my colleague Emily Poefel there. We are going to take a quick break. But when we come back, we'll do a check of headlines and dive into a whole lot of other stuff that we're watching. Stay right there. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on All Day Live. I'm Courtney Godfrey. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Creeping up on the 3 o'clock hour. Thanks for joining us here. Let's do a quick check of your headlines. Well, as we just chatted with our very own Emily Pofel, crews began clearing the Pig's Eye Park encampment this morning, marking the start of the city's plan to close several large homeless camps over health and safety concerns. City leaders say that they have invested more than $1 million to expand shelter beds and outreach, while advocates worry that these closures will simply push people into other neighborhoods and other parks. And thousands were expected at Minnesota Farm Fest today in Redwood County, Minnesota, where agriculture and politics were taking center stage. The day's headline events included the Minnesota Governor Candidates Forum, as well as a U.S. Senate candidate forum, as hopefuls make their pitch to rural voters. And hundreds of Target Field concession workers were walking off the job today, timing a one-day strike with the sold-out Noah Kahan concert taking place tonight at Target Field. The labor action follows a very similar action that took place in June when these concession workers went on strike when the Twins played the Los Angeles Dodgers. They're demanding higher wages and better benefits. Meanwhile, the venue says they will have temporary concession workers in place for the concert tonight. And Governor Tim Walz says Minnesota will not need to extend its peacetime emergency for the northern wildfires when it expires next week. State officials say cooler weather and recent rain have slowed fire activity, allowing crews to strengthen containment lines. All good news. Some evacuation orders have been lifted, but firefighters warn that the fires are still active and residents should remain alert. Joining me on this lovely Wednesday afternoon is executive producer Paul Milgate. Paul, we're both parents of little ones now, and some days it's a struggle. Today is a struggling day.
Yeah, today is a struggle. Today is a struggle. But we're here, we're doing it, and the top of the show has been keeping us on our toes. So now we're in the zone. We're firing.
Are
you
in the zone?
I am now. After cutting you off, I cut you off music earlier today. Just was like Courtney was still talking. I was like, oh, music. Let's go to break.
I thought that was personal.
No, it wasn't. It was just a very unslept father switching a live TV show.
I heard Grace in the back. She outed you. She said it was personal. He's like, I'm sick of hearing from this lady. You know, my kids do. It was funny. So we were in the hospital last night. Nothing too serious. Case of croup. Every mom has been there. It's, you know, common with kids. But so they need to go and get the nebulizer. And Paul, you would love the song requests that I got in the ER last night. Do you think you can take a guess?
I absolutely cannot. What was it?
That Christmas song about a partridge in a pear tree.
12 Days of Christmas.
She wanted 12 Days of Christmas.
Oh, bless her little heart. That's
do
all
you
she
know?
wanted?
Do you know the words by heart? I was on my phone, like Googling the lyrics.
Oh, she was asking you to sing it. I thought she was asking you to play it on the phone.
No, she wanted a Broadway performance of the 12 Days of Christmas. On the first day of Christmas,
now,
my true love gave to me.
I don't know if it's got copyright. I don't know if we can sing. I think Grace is in the background saying that it's in the public domain, so you can sing it all you like. Maybe we can get Erica Mrazek to sing it with us.
People will change the channel if I continue singing. So, all right, Paul, we'll continue to check in with you throughout the day.
The strings you have to your bow, Courtney Godfrey, the strings you have to your bow.
Multi-talented.
Multi-talented.
All right, that's right. We do have Erica Mrazek on deck. Just lovely weather we've had this week. Meteorologist Erica Mrazek joins me now. Erica, lovely in pink today. My goodness.
I was like bright sky, bright color. They just go together.
Love it.
But yeah, I don't think anyone wants to hear me sing 12 Days of Christmas. I didn't warm up yet, so singing voices are ready. Maybe later, next hit. But beautiful day today. It's all about the midweek mellow. We have high pressure over the area, keeping our skies bright and blue. There's not even any bit of haze to the sky today, so it's just gorgeous out there. So for the rest of your Wednesday, it's going to be wonderful. No rain in the forecast, barely any clouds. Last couple of hours, there were a few clouds in southeast Minnesota, but those started to go further east and now looking at cloud-free basically everywhere. And your dew points are mild. Those are in the 40s, so it feels extremely comfortable for for today, almost unseasonably dry. So far it reached 79 here in the Twin Cities, typically 82, so just a touch below average, but an amazing August-like day today with some clear skies, dry weather, and overall really pleasant conditions. And then across the board, a whole lot of 70s, basically everyone in the 70s, except for Grand Marais. You guys still in the 60s, but almost everyone else 70s, except for also Hinckley, 81 as one of the warm spots. And still right now at those high temperatures for the most part, and it feels also like that high because those dew points are low in the 40s, and it's also not really windy today. So it's just a perfect weather day all in all. So if you have time to get outside today, definitely do that after you're done with all your work or errands or whatever you have going on. So west breeze bringing in light wind tomorrow. That's going to shift to be from the southwest. So temperatures will be increasing a little bit beginning tomorrow. Today, low 80s, mostly 70s though for folks. And then for tomorrow, mid 80s. And after that, still 80s and also lots of midweek sunshine continuing through the rest of today and into parts of tomorrow. Now, in terms of your next chance for a shower, overall, there's no very large opportunity for that. But I am tracking a system that perhaps could bring a few isolated showers to the area in north and west in the northwest Minnesota for parts of Thursday. And then better chances will be Friday afternoon, evening, more around the metro and places southeast. But overall, there's still few and far between. And then after that, better chance, well, maybe not better, about the same chances for now, but they could perhaps start to get better chances as you get into the start of next week. So perhaps Saturday, Sunday, into parts of early Monday, there could just be very few isolated showers at times. But overall, no huge rainy day in the forecast, but few chances for showers all in all. But for now, just plenty of sunshine, Courtney, and some clear skies.
Love it. Beautiful weather outside. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. I love it. I love it.
It's so nice outside.
And we desperately need that rain, so that's good news. Uh-oh, Paul's coming in to chime in.
Erica, there's something behind you, and I can't quite recognize it.
Behind me? Oh, a blue sky.
A blue sky. I haven't seen that in a long time.
I know, it was so nice today. I was like, I need to go on a walk, get my vitamin D. It was great.
And what is it like outside? Courtney and I, we've been chained at our desks inside KMSP since before the sun came up this morning. So
well, when you get out of work later, you'll have the whole evening
what
to
time
enjoy
is
the
sunset
weather.
Today?
Sometime around between 8:39.
Oh, plenty of time.
Way to put her on the spot, Paul. What time is sunset?
But there's a range.
And by the way, can you let me know when the stars align perfectly with the solar system? And come on.
Well, it was that or ask you to sing the 12 Days of Christmas, and I thought she'd rather the sunset question.
Maybe if you ask me around the holidays, I'll be in a little more holiday cheer. And I'll sing it. Also, if you ask me to sing it in July, because that's Christmas in July, but now it's August.
Yeah,
so
well,
it wouldn't really make any sense to sing.
I'm used
that
to a warm
anymore.
Christmas. That's what Christmas is for me, is warm and like watermelon and seafood and stuff.
So you guys have the decorations of Santa Claus like in swim trunks.
Exactly.
Like people
he's wearing swim trunks, he's got flip-flops on, he's drinking a cold beer.
I love it.
That's what Santa is for us in Australia.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah, that sounds so nice.
It really is.
All right. We can let Erica go back to what she was doing now. Thanks for playing along, Erica. We'll see her in a little bit. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to get a live update from Vikings training camp over at TCO Performance Center in Eagan. Dawn Mitchell is up next. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on All Day Live. Well, training camp continues over in Eagan at TCO Performance Center. That's where we find our very own Dawn Mitchell. Dawn, looks like a beautiful day there in Eagan.
You know, it's a gorgeous day, a little warmer than yesterday. And, you know, Courtney, I don't know, I learned a term yesterday that two separate people out of nowhere used yesterday. It was a bluebird day, and I didn't know what that meant. And
Dawn,
so I have
that's a skiing. That is a skiing term. A bluebird day is when it's beautiful blue skies. You've got fresh snow on the ground. Yeah, those are the best.
Never heard of it. You know, I've only skied downhill once, and that's a whole story that ended up with the foggy goggle. That I digress. But
that is a good. I know that. I know that story, and it is a good one. It is a good one. Anyway.
It's a tragic one. I know what a black diamond, double black diamond means too, skating on one leg. Yeah, so it was a bluebird day yesterday. Today, maybe just a little bit warmer, so we're just being really smart about the sunscreen. Scott has us under an awning right here, so it's blissful at the moment. But a lot of people in at practice right now, but everyone's still in good moods. And there's also free Johnny Pops over here that will attack at the end, so you cannot complain.
Yeah, no complaints, certainly. We got to hear from Mark Wilf today, and he made some comments about Coach O'Connell. What did he have to say?
Yeah, you know, this is what I really love. They know the relationship that the Wolves have with Kevin O'Connell. They just adore him. But they were also talking about how he already sees synergy, as well as all the other words that you want to hear, you know, collaboration, cooperation, all the culture words thrown around, that how he's fitting in very nicely with new GM Nolan Teasley. And he said that he really likes how they complement each other. They both have different strengths, but he says he's witnessed how they work together, how they talk together, and he's highly pleased. And he also loves all of the people that Nolan has brought in terms of coaches and other staff members. So when you get a thumbs up and high rankings like that from ownership this early on in camp, that's always a good sign. But they also, just as you know, adore Kevin O'Connell. He really likes how this team on the field is shaping up this year, how he's handling everything. We all know the quarterback, you know, I don't even want to call it controversy, it's just a competition. All of that is unfolding nicely. So when you have the owner saying all of that, that's great to hear. Also, Mark Wolf talked about how he's very happy that they're going to host the draft coming up in the future. Also, women's and girls flag football, how he's fully and staunchly behind that and hopes it becomes a sanctioned high school sport. So a lot coming from ownership today, and he made it clear. Somebody said, hey, did you just see how much the Seahawks were sold for? Does that give you any, you know, maybe hankering to sell the team and put money in your back pocket? And he said, we are in this for the long haul. We're not in it for money. Yes, it's a business. Yes, people want to make money, not lose money. But we want to bring a championship. We want to bring a winning culture. We're here in Minnesota for a long, long time. So a lot of that was said this morning.
Wow. TJ Hawkinson, tight end, also addressed the media today. Any tidbits from that?
You know, I think TJ, what he really likes now is he comes into this camp not even thinking at all about his knee. And that's great, because he was talking about Christian Darrisaw and, you know, the guys up front are all watching, make sure CD, as they call him, is going to be healing nicely, come back. Because last year, if you remember, up front, Christian Darrisaw had to take a day off, maybe, for rest. And so TJ said, I know that injury. I know how hard it is. And I know that this year, I don't even think about it. Last year was my first year that I could come in and be like, yes, I'm 100%. He said, but now not only am I 100%, I don't think about it. It's not even in the back of my mind. And he's really looking forward to this offense this year and seeing what they can do. Now that they have both the tackles up front, all secured, Christian Darrisaw and, of course, Brian O'Neill signing his extension. And then they're getting work with both quarterbacks. So he had work in the offseason with both JJ and with Kyler Murray. So he says he's enjoying them both. I mean, he's not going to glean us any insight, but I like seeing. And he also commented about his haircut, how he went to always get his haircut like he does before camp, and his wife said maybe a little bit shorter, and he said hopefully it'll grow fast. Aww. So the things they do for their wives in the off season, yes.
Oh, cute. So about that quarterback competition, I just am curious what you're seeing on the field. You know, you're able to watch practice. What are you seeing as far as Kyler Murray, J.J. McCarthy? What are you seeing on the field that's notable from both of them?
Well, what I saw yesterday, now yesterday they were in shells. They were not in full pads. Today they're back in full pads, and we'll get a little bit more once we're done here to see exactly what they do when they really get into throwing the ball some. But I really liked how I think Kyler Murray is really starting to make quicker decisions when it comes to, he's not scrambling as much. I know these are designed scripted plays, but quicker decisions when he's getting the ball out, where he's throwing it to, and, you know, hitting his spots, and had some really good, I mean, yesterday, Ty Felton had the catch of camp, so that was pretty incredible. So that's what I like seeing from Kyler Murray. Of course, we all enjoy when he scrambles a little bit and then can find someone on the run, but just how I think it's that process of knowing the offense and making those decisions faster, where J.J. McCarthy says, you know, now for him it's instinctual. Yesterday there was maybe some concerns a little bit that J.J. overthrew guys in the back of the end zone because, of course, people are going to say, oh, no, his accuracy problems are back, but then he settled down, was making some throws. So, again, you know, they're going to have a bad throw, they're going to have a good throw. So nothing that's like just hugely that's going to be like, oh, that's it, they're done. And I know that people are saying, hey, they're going to be pulling away in this competition. Yes, but I think the coaches are putting them in situations just to see also how other guys respond. And we should say that, and we mentioned it yesterday when I did a couple of hits too, that we're concerned with Jordan Addison because I saw him make one catch and he came down pretty hard and couldn't tell what was going on with his hand. And then he stayed on the field, but he didn't catch any more. Well, Kevin O'Connell made a surprise entrance to the podium this morning before Wes Phillips was there and said he's dealing with a thumb injury. He banged it up. He jammed it on one of the catches coming down yesterday, but that they did all the imaging and everything is clean. He said it's clear, so it's nothing to be worried about, but that he'd be out there today, but don't see him really trying to catch the football or anything today, just to kind of give that a little bit of space. So he might not be as active catching-wise the next couple of days, but they said thankfully the imaging there is clear. So that's what we're also looking at. It's not just the quarterbacks, it's how they're hitting, you know, even the run plays, how they're dealing with platooning Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones, and also the wide receivers and tight ends. So, you know, sometimes when they're working on something, we see one thing and the coaches are looking at something else. So that's what we're dealing with at this point in camp.
Well, glad to hear that Addison is going to be on the mend, that it's nothing too serious. And always love your insight from there at camp. Go grab yourself a Johnny Pop, get Scotty a Johnny Pop, and cool off.
Now, here's the thing. Is it weird that sometimes if it's soft enough, I take some bites out of a Johnny Pop? Some people are telling me that I'm a little maybe out there for that.
Paul, get the all-day poll going. Get the all-day poll going. Is it okay to bite a popsicle?
Well,
like the top of it.
My question
Not
to
like
you both is,
when it's totally frozen, but
what is a Johnny Pop?
Yeah.
Oh, Paul doesn't know what a Johnny Pop is, Dawn.
I'm not from here.
It's like a big, awesome fruit popsicle. Look, you have a Johnny Pop. You want to show us what a Johnny Pop looks like?
Please.
Come on around down these stairs. You can sneak in. All right, we have an example for you.
See,
Look at this.
This is what we do
And,
here. This is
right.
bringing all
Come
the
on,
really
running down. Come on.
The sale.
You'll be on live TV.
Kevin O'Connell's about to
Okay,
bring
what's
in a
your
Johnny
name?
Pop.
This is Kaiser, and Kaiser has a Johnny Pop. Kaiser, do you take bites of that sometimes?
No.
Oh, see? Do you think it's weird that I do?
No.
No, see, right? Because sometimes if it's melted just enough, you take a little bite, right? And then you have like a little chunk in there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, give us a good shot of it. Hold it up for us.
Okay. Can you show it right? Show it right up there.
Yum.
Whoa, this is an amazing Johnny.
Yum.
It's incredible, and they give it for free. Are you going to get another one? You can.
Maybe.
Yeah, go get another one.
Maybe.
Because
he's like,
my other one was on TV. I need a fresh one.
Dawn just gave him permission. Ask Kaiser who his favorite player to watch this week is.
So Kaiser, they want to know back at the station who your favorite player to watch this week at camp is.
J.J. McCarthy.
We got a J.J. McCarthy. How about your friends? Justin Jefferson. And we got 2 JJs and another JJ.
So fun.
You're smart.
Yeah.
Good company. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
for letting
you.
that melt a little bit so we can see what it looks like.
That's so great.
Can I get a high five? All right. That is the best. And Johnny Pops are amazing. And I am going to go get one.
That is.
And you know what? I may not take like that psycho bite, but I'm going to like let it melt a little bit and then I'm going to take a little nibble because I don't want it all over my face.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Like
you got to take a couple
lady,
bites.
right?
You got to take a couple bites,
Yeah.
especially when it's hot out. That's what camp's all about right there, guys, is the fans, the kids. I'm so glad that, Dawn, you were able to show us that part of camp because that is really, I think, the most important part. So.
Yeah, the kids having fun. That's right. And the kids like behind me getting into a lot of the drills and stuff that are going on at TCO Stadium. So, and then the quarterbacks, and I know this is why Kaiser's up here, the quarterbacks are signing autographs right over here to my left today, right after practice. So a lot of kids are buzzing around here so they can get in line early. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Dawn Mitchell, live from TCO Performance Center. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back after this. Welcome back. St. Paul City officials began clearing the Pig's Eye Park encampment today, marking the start of the city's plans to close several large homeless encampments across the city, citing health and safety concerns. As they were well into these closures this morning, the assistant mayor, Cedric Baker, addressed the media. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us here. We wanted to, use this as a space so we didn't distract on the work that was going on at Pig's Eye Park and our effort to support those that are at the encampment, seek shelter and move out of the encampment. So as of right now, things are moving forward kind of as we planned. And it's supposed to be a slow and steady process. Our goal is to make sure that as individuals that are living in the encampment are still there making that decision, that we are supporting them in that decision and helping them understand their options that they have. We continue to work with each individual. We are really, really grateful for all of the volunteers that have come out. Their work and their support in helping individuals move their belongings and also transportation has been really, really great. We appreciate that level of support from our community. And we also know that we still have a few individuals that are still there. And our process is to really go slow and steady in this. We understand that this is a process and we want to respect and make sure that there is a strong level of dignity that we have for the individuals at the encampment. Ultimately, our goal is to support these individuals with greater stability and being indoors. And so we continue to let them know that there are options for shelter. There are also still wraparound services that are available. We continue to work with Ramsey County to ensure that they understand that we have public health services available as well as shelter housing services. We have social services available and financial assistance. But right now, our main focus is to help them move their belongings. And the individuals that are living at the encampment have been extremely cooperative. We are really, really grateful for their cooperation and their partnership in helping them move their belongings. We continue to want to work with individuals to support. We want to work with our community. We understand that for some that this could be a really, really hard decision to make and just overall hard in general. But we are grateful for the overall kind of swell of support. And as of right now, we will continue to work with each individual out there. When we think back to yesterday, there were a lot more people in the encampment. That number has shrunk drastically. And so we continue to work with each one of those individuals to let them know their options and to move them forward with some level of shelter. And with that, I'll take a few questions. As of right now, I think the question is where folks moving to. As of right now, we are giving them the options of the shelters that are available and that they have access to. We want to make sure that they understand all of the options that they have. And we also know that there will be some individuals that will just not take us up on our offer. And so with that, we're just still having conversations with them to let them know that there are shelter spaces available for them. And we also want them to understand that there are also wraparound services that are available. So we continue to be in partnership with them, and this is not this partnership does not stop today. It will continue with service providers in Ramsey County and the city.
I was just over at the Randolph Avenue site, and it's like moving day. I mean, there's huge numbers of people. It's not U-Haul. I mean, if that site doubles in size, are you just going to clear that one? Or how quickly would that happen?
As of right now, we are asking and giving the individuals at the encampment their options of the shelters that are available. There is shelter space available right now, and we want them to choose that. We also know that there's a choice in the middle of all of this, and we cannot make individuals choose, but we can continue to give them insight into all of the options that are available. As it comes to the Randolph site, we are not encouraging anyone to move to that encampment, and we still do not have a date set for any other encampment closures for two reasons. Number one, we're trying to ensure that we are thinking about the transition of the individuals at Pig's Eye Park and just making sure that they have the support that they need as they transition from the park. And then number two, we also want to make sure that we're not only monitoring what's happening with these individuals, but that we are preparing for a later closure for the other encampments. So that has not been set. People will have notice, but as of right now, I know that there's some swirl out there, misinformation about a date. There is no date as of now.
All right, you've been listening to Assistant Mayor Cedric Baker addressing the media earlier today about the Pigs Eye Park encampment sweep that took place this morning. Noticeably absent from this event today was Mayor Kali Her. This was her initiative that she implemented, and many presume maybe she was avoiding the media due to these sexual harassment allegations she's facing. So our reporter asked, "Where is the mayor?" This was the response.
Mayor Her has, I literally have been on the phone with Mayor Her. She is watching, she is updated on everything. She understands what's going on. We are having multiple conversations with her. She understands what's happening. She's making decisions. And I will also say that Mayor Her has to still run the city. And so as of right now, we are here supporting, working as she is being updated and having conversations with us. So thank you. Appreciate it.
There you have it. That was Assistant Mayor of St. Paul, Cedric Baker, talking about the Pigs Eye Park encampment closure and the sweep that took place there early this morning. Several dozen people were kicked out of that encampment. Some of them accepted shelter beds. Others dispersed as the city was offering resources and shelter to those who accepted it. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get an update on those northern Minnesota wildfires, and we're also going to talk to the United Way, who is now offering grants to help residents and businesses who have been impacted by these fires. Stay right there. Welcome back. The northern Minnesota wildfires have now burned more than 70,000 acres. And while officials announced today that they are making good progress on containing those fires, they do continue to burn. Governor Tim Walz saying that Minnesota will not need to extend its peacetime emergency for the wildfires when it expires next Tuesday, as they feel like some recent rain and cooler temperatures have helped with that wildfire fight. The governor addressed the media earlier today. Let's take a listen.
Well, good morning, everyone, and to some of the press who's here, this brings back memories, at least. We spent a lot of time in here during the COVID pandemic, but grateful to the Department of Public Safety for opening this up. You're going to hear from Commissioner of Public Safety Jacobson. You're going to hear from Adjutant General of the Minnesota National Guard, Menke, and you're going to hear from DNR Wildfire Administrator Warnke on an update of the situation on the wildfires. I had the opportunity about 9 days ago to be up in Ely, be able to talk to some of the folks up there who were in the fight, folks who were doing great work providing meals to our firefighters. And then I think the thing that was so encouraging is to just be in the community amongst businesses and amongst locations where food and supplies were being dropped off. And again, this incident started with lightning strikes in the early part of July. We're about 4 weeks into this. And I will just say in just great thanks and admiration to those on all levels of this fight, those firefighters who are out there. No loss of life, no significant injury, and protection of the vast majority of our infrastructure. With that being said, about 65,000 acres in these fires have burned on the U.S. side of this. We've had about 875 direct firefighters personnel involved in this fight over that time. You'll hear the update of where we're at on this. I think the high overall on this is we're in a better spot than I think I anticipated, and I think that many of us did because of that. And you'll hear Administrator Warnke talk a little bit. The weather did cooperate on that. Weather different than the overall climate picture. We're still in drought, and we are reminded, I think a very good point on this is that even with rain, our vegetation is at a point where it's starting to go dormant. I know it's hard to hear for all of us, but we're entering fall, and we're actually entering fire season by traditional standards would be right now. So this fight, the resources that went into it, the personnel and everything that's gone into this was early for that. With that being said, we're in a good spot on this. You'll hear about the containment pieces of it. I think, again, you'll hear from Commissioner Jacobson, his assessment on where we're at on the needs and the personnel that are out there. But I think to Minnesotans, just once again, this is a coordinated effort. It was local. It was the counties. It was the state. It was the federal government, and it was internationally with our Canadian partners who, once again, great of gratitude for getting our campers out of there when we needed to. So this is well coordinated. It is a well-established protocol. The relationships are there. They kick in when the need is there. There are certain things that we need to do, like peacetime emergencies, that open up some of that toolbox that's there. But the toolbox is well tested. It works. And in this case, I would have to say it was executed incredibly well, which I'm grateful for.
All right, that was Governor Tim Walz addressing the current status of the wildfires that have been burning in northern Minnesota. And a new relief fund is now available to help small businesses in the Ely area recover from these devastating fires. The United Way of Northeastern Minnesota is offering grants to businesses hit by lost tourism. Erin Shea, the executive director of the United Way Northeastern Minnesota, joins me now. Erin, thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
What prompted you guys to want to come up with this fund?
So this is the third year our organization and region has been impacted by a natural disaster. And so it's something that we just do. It's something our United Way has become accustomed to being a part of, connecting community members to resources. And so we knew right away we needed to get something started for the businesses and community members that were being impacted.
What was the call that you were hearing from those businesses? You know, we've interviewed several of them on this show. We've heard how hard it's been to lose weeks of business in their peak season. But what were you hearing from them that prompted you guys to create this fund?
Well, I can tell you that, really the main thing was just loss of income. To date, we've had, as of this morning, we've had over 50 applications that have come in from mostly Ely businesses to date. We do have funds available for surrounding communities within a 30-mile radius. But within those requests, we are close to $300,000 in support that's being requested from those businesses, which is just a portion of some of their lost income. Many are asking for support for rent, mortgage, utility payments. They have not been able to make payroll, many of them. So they're asking for support with that, and then also payments to some of their suppliers. So there are some businesses we're hearing who are still closed. It's ranging from losses in 5% of revenue over the past month to 50% of their revenue. So it's devastating for many, and this is a prime season for the Ely area to really, earn revenue and make ends meet as a business.
How important is the recovery of these businesses to the Ely community and to the Ely economy?
It's extremely important. I mean, we are hearing over and over from business owners, community members, how devastating this currently is and how it will be if some of these businesses close permanently.
And what's amazing is you're able to give these grants because of donations that have been given by the public, maybe even people who had to cancel their trips because of the closures. Can you talk to me about the giving that has occurred that has made these grants possible?
Sure. The outpouring of support has been incredible. We started initially with a general crisis and recovery fund that is always open and available for donors to contribute to on our website, and saw people contributing to that immediately. And then we had a group of anonymous contributors who had special ties to the Ely area, and they came forward with a $50,000 match. So for every $2 that we raised, they would match $1. And so to date, that fund specifically, we've raised, as of just a couple hours ago, and it continues to change, $135,000. So we still have $20,000 in match funds available to come in, and we just continue to appeal to the public and to local businesses. But it's incredible how people from all across the state, and actually even out of the state, who have contributed to support these businesses.
Who's eligible for these grants, and how does the application process work? How can people apply?
So any business within a 30-mile radius of the evacuation zone is able to apply for funding. Same with individuals and where they live. And the application process is open. We opened it on July 31st, and people can apply through August 10th. Once that process closes, we have a review panel which will look through all of the applications and prioritize need, and then we will be remitting payments to businesses by August 17th. And the applications are all live on our United Way website. If you visit the site, or you just visit United Way, NEMN.org, and then Fire Help is where people can find those applications.
And it's my understanding that you're also supporting other communities that might be affected by the wildfires or at risk. Is that right?
Correct. In fact, we just have been notified of a fire that's popped up in the Bike area. And all of those surrounding communities, again, within that 30-mile radius, they're eligible to apply through our regular crisis and disaster recovery fund. So we do have channels of funding involved for people to receive support.
Wonderful. I know those businesses have been hit so hard. People might think, well, it was only a couple weeks, but a couple weeks for them is sometimes half the season, and that's business they can't get back because the season only lasts so long. So wonderful work by the United Way. Erin Shea, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, we are going to take a quick break. We'll be back after this. Welcome back. Thousands were expected at Minnesota's Farm Fest today in Morgan, Minnesota. That's in Redwood County. And it's where agriculture meets politics. So while the annual event always features ag technology, livestock demonstrations, and discussions on the challenges facing the agriculture community here in Minnesota, it also serves up plenty of political debate. So there was a U.S. Senate candidate forum where most of the candidates for U.S. Senate took to the stage and answered questions. But there was also a gubernatorial candidate forum where the candidates took the stage and answered questions. We want to share one of those clips, a short clip from a very long forum that occurred today. This one has to do about division in Minnesota. The candidates were asked about the division here in this state. Here's what they all had to say.
Minnesota has become more divided by geography. How do you plan to connect or unite the state so that there is not a narrative of urban versus rural? Senator Klobuchar, we'll start with you.
Well, thank you very much, Boyce, and thank you, everyone. It's good to see Zippy Duvall, the head of Farm Bureau National here, as well as many Farmers Union people. I love Farm Fest, and I guess I'd start with this. This is one way we bring people together in Minnesota, and that's having civil debates about issues. That is things like what I have done every year since being in statewide office, visiting every single county, all 87, every single year. And I don't care if people are Republican or Democrats, they come and they tell me what's wrong, especially our farmers. And what our farmers are facing right now should bring people together. Doesn't matter what party you're in. The headwinds they're up against with these tariffs that I strongly oppose. What's been happening with fertilizer costs and the like due to the war in Iran. So the answer is we're going to have headwinds, but they can never be an excuse. So the fact that I have been #1 for bipartisan bills in the U.S. Senate, #3 for getting bills signed into law means something. Because as governor, I don't like the status quo. I want to transform this state. I like my job now, but I love our state more. And I am running to change things to make it better for you.
Speaker Dameth.
Hey, good morning. It's great to be with you out at Farm Fest today. One of my favorite things to attend every year. Beautiful drive. I am the only candidate sitting before you that's actually from Greater Minnesota. I was born in Paynesville, but I live in the Cold Spring area. What I will say as far as unifying our state, now more than ever, this is our opportunity, regardless of your political party, to show that Minnesotans can unite and move forward as a state for what will better all of us. I am proud to have led the House of Representatives as Speaker of the House here in Minnesota over the last year in the second time in history in a tie. That means there's 67 Democrats, 67 Republicans. Absolutely everything that we passed over the last 2 years had to be bipartisan. We have proven that we can do that here in Minnesota, and as your next governor, my proof is that I can lead this state, I led the body, into unity. It is great to be with all of you here today.
Mike Lindell.
Thank you all. I can unite the state. My roots were in farming. That was my first job, or one of my first jobs for years. And I know the problems with farming. I was a crack addict in the middle of Minneapolis for years. I quit that by the grace of God, and then put millions of dollars into Minneapolis and St. Paul, into the inner city to help the homeless, the people in addiction. And my story speaks for itself. And then I built one of the biggest businesses Minnesota's ever seen, probably the nation, direct sales. And then when it's been attacked over the last 5 years, able to guide that through as a CEO and we're still standing. And then to be able to come into Minnesota and be able to unite everybody. And our budget's coming out tomorrow, and it'll show that we will be the 10th state in the nation to be income tax free.
Kendall Qualls.
Yeah, if you listen to the question from Blois, he's talking about the differences between greater Minnesota and the metro, the rest of the state. But the differences are not just geography. The differences are in values. When you change the state flag, when you have half the Democrat Party calling themselves the Democrat Socialists of America, those are value differences that do not sustain any organization or state. We have to have common values, common beliefs that we used to have as a state and as a country, and they're under wraps. Now, as an Army veteran, I put my life on the line for the things that matter about this country. Pledge an oath to defend the Constitution against enemies foreign and domestic, and that oath has no expiration date. This is about values, not where you live. Your way of life is your industry is a way of life, but it's also your way of earning money. And they've rejected both of those in that.
All right, you've been listening to clips from the governor's candidate forum that occurred at Minnesota Farm Fest just a few hours ago there in Morgan, Minnesota. The candidates talked about a variety of issues. They also addressed Operation Metro Surge, and each candidate discussed their take on immigration enforcement. Let's take a listen.
Immigration surge of officers. How do you lead?
As your next governor, the way that I look at the federal immigration laws is, first of all, I believe at a federal level, they desperately need changes. There needs to be updating to our federal immigration laws. But as your governor, I commit that I will support our federal immigration laws regardless of who is in charge. That is what I will be doing, is supporting the federal immigration laws and expecting those in Washington to finally do their jobs and make the meaningful changes that will make people safer, that will allow legal immigration. You know, it could be something as far as, instead of seasonal workers, expanding that, looking at things, but protecting our borders is what was desperately needed after the failed Biden administration. We need to make sure that our borders of the United States and our state of Minnesota on the northern side are safe. So I will support federal immigration and expect those in Washington to do their job and update our immigration laws.
Mike?
Well, first of all, you need to prevent this. And on day one as governor, we're housing 1,400 felons illegals that have committed felonies in our prisons at the cost of $110 million a year. You cooperate with the federal government and you say, pick these guys up. I've also talked to him. I also am going to enforce employers that are employing the illegals in around the cities they're employing them, and they're cheating us out of billions, or $1.5 billion in tax a year. These jobs are for our legal citizens. And then if you cooperate with ICE and with our government, like other cities have, you're turning them in as you get them, and they don't have to go door to door. But if they did, there's another thing in Minneapolis. Minneapolis has some of the strictest protest laws in the nation. I will enforce them. You don't get to commit crimes protesting, period.
Kendall?
Yeah.
Kendall?
Well, they're applauding for me. I have to let them stop. Okay. Well, guys, first of all, we do this. The number one thing, this whole idea of a sanctuary city, sanctuary state would be eliminated. That's number one. We have one constitution, one rule of law. We're a nation of laws, or we're not a nation at all. It starts right here with a new leadership. Second is, we wouldn't have to deal with the Metro Surge, because at the state level, we manage our own business. We manage our own affairs. And we make sure that those issues will not even rise to the surface of having us become a national embarrassment anymore. So I'm not concerned about that, Blois. But here's what I can tell you what's happening in our state with illegal immigrants right now. They get better health care than the people that pay the premiums. Therefore, they're actually, you can boo all you want, because, look, you pay a copay, they do not. It is true. I got 15 seconds. Listen, pharmacist told me that a Medicare patient didn't get her inhaler because she couldn't afford the copay. But the person that came back right in front of her was an illegal immigrant or an immigrant that came in, got a refill, no copay, and wanted the rest of it shipped to Somalia.
Amy? Amy?
I've long believed and supported funding for Order at the Border, and I have worked well with law enforcement in Minnesota for years. But what
Quiet.
Wow. I ran the largest prosecutor's office in the state and was endorsed by police many, many times. So don't. Number two, none of my opponents on this stage condemned what ICE did. Not a word, not a word. 2 innocent people were killed, shot in the back. We had many people arrested when they weren't supposed to be arrested, and we all know that, and we need reform to ICE. We must have reform, and if anyone wants to see what happened, $70 billion into ICE, so it's bigger than the FBI now. It's bigger than the Marines. I did not support that. I think that $70 billion extra dollars should go to you for your health care. That money should go to you for your housing, and it should go to you for your child care.
Time.
All right, you've been listening to the gubernatorial candidates here in Minnesota. They were speaking at Farm Fest earlier today. Right there, those clips were their responses to how they want to see ICE going forward, and if they were governor, would they support ICE and immigration enforcement? This, of course, off the heels of Operation Metro Surge here in the Twin Cities this past winter. We are going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we are going to talk with a representative with the Department of Natural Resources here in Minnesota, all about drought conditions. It's been extremely dry this summer. A little bit of rain has helped, but as of the last check, the U.S. Drought Monitor had much of the state in some kind of drought condition. So we're going to check in with him all about what to expect this summer and where he expects things to go in the future. Stay right there. Welcome back. The U.S. Drought Monitor releases its drought outlook every Thursday. Last week, around 95% of the state of Minnesota was in some kind of drought condition. Obviously, we've gotten a little rain since then. That might have helped. But here to talk about these drought conditions is Randall Doning, DNR Conservation Assistant Section Manager. Randall, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So what does this drought reveal about the current conditions in Minnesota? Water levels, rain, heat, all of it?
Well, drought is, we've been in Minnesota over the last 5 years, we've had various levels of drought. In 21, it was probably the most severe, but we've had less severe then. And so what we're seeing in the north central part of the state is accumulation of drought over the years, and has created what we call a storage drought system, which means that the groundwater doesn't have the water resources that it normally would have to recharge lakes, streams, aquifers. And so it's a significant issue in that those take a long time to recover. That storage, that water storage that was in the ground in the aquifers and that shallow aquifers is not there, and it takes a long time and a lot of precipitation for that condition to be coming out of the drought, where we would see increased soil moisture, increased lake levels and stream flows. And so we envision that the drought in the north central will take significant time and significant precipitation to come back to normal levels.
Duluth and Hermantown have asked residents to cut down on water use. Do you expect that could expand to other communities?
Yeah, the state of Minnesota actually has a drought response plan that lays out the different drought scenarios and significance and what the responses should be. And at various drought levels, we ask communities to limit their water demand to try to match, at least the closest possible, their wintertime use. And so it's like we ask the communities that you've mentioned, to reduce their water use to 50% over their January levels. That's the goal that they can work with. And each of these communities has a water supply plan where they have water demand reduction measures that they can implement. And so we're just asking those communities to implement those. And the response plan is by large watersheds. So whenever a watershed enters like the drought warning phase, like these folks have, that they would begin these water reduction practices. And so all the communities in the northern central of those watersheds, we've notified to begin these water demand reductions. And as long as the geographic scope of the drought doesn't increase, that wouldn't change. But if it does increase and it goes to other watersheds that aren't in the drought warning phase now, we would have them begin these water demand reduction measures as well.
Did the rain that we got last weekend help at all?
Oh yeah, for sure. Every little bit helps, but it is going to take a long time before we see this shallow aquifers and lakes and streams recover.
What if these conditions continue? What should we expect to see in the weeks and months to come?
Well, continued water level reductions. Fire conditions are very severe, can be very severe in these dry conditions. And what we ask folks is when people in dry conditions, they tend to want to use more water. What we're asking people is not to use more water when it's dry out, to do water conservation. And so I can envision that if the drought continues out this year, we will have to continue to work with communities and people to reduce water use. If it gets more severe, there could be more additional restrictions on water use. That would be it. But hopefully we'll get some rain here in the late part of the summer and the fall, can at least keep things at status level until we get into the winter, to get some more precipitation to hopefully bring us out of this drought, or at least point us in the right direction out of the drought.
You pointed out that northern Minnesota is especially bad when it comes to drought conditions. How is that playing a role with the wildfires that we are currently seeing burning up there?
Well, I'm sure it has played a role, because the moisture is just not there in the ground. Now, granted, the extent of it, the extent of the fires probably isn't there, but the ability for fires to start and spread is increased with drought conditions, and so that is a big risk. And so, asking people to be very cautious about preventing fires and fire bans is very common.
I know that at the DNR, you guys watch, climate trends, weather trends. Do you think that this is going to become more common?
Difficult to say. What we've noticed in our trends, when we have a climatologist office that notice that, and what the records show is that we get more extreme events. So we could get more drier events and we could get more wetter events. And it's tough to say which of those events will be, and it could probably vacillate back and forth throughout the years.
Is drought impacted by snowfall? So if we have a low snowfall year, does that impact drought conditions?
Most definitely. Our snowpack is a big indicator that really helps recharge that shallow aquifer that in the groundwater that is the key to restoring water to our lakes and rivers. And so snowpack is very important.
What about wildlife? I'm thinking about the fish population as well as other wildlife. Are they impacted by drought conditions, or did they learn to adapt?
Most of the natural systems are very adaptable to seasonal fluctuations like this. And so these temporary seasonal fluctuations actually can have a beneficial effect in some cases. In some cases, aquatic plants can't germinate until they've been dry for a little while. And so these low water levels can actually increase aquatic vegetation, which can increase habitat and food sources for wildlife. So in the middle of the drought, it can be difficult, right? Because if they're having trouble finding water, they may need to travel farther or use more energy. So there can be some, but in a large scale, we typically don't see a lot of impacts from drought in the large scale as far as like fish die-offs or anything like that. Not that it couldn't happen in a certain situation, but those are not what we typically see.
Can you explain to me how, we saw flooding in southern Minnesota not too long ago, but then we're still seeing that they are in some form of drought. I don't have the map up right in front of me, so I don't know exactly. But how is that possible that we see flooding occurring and at the same time they're in a drought?
Yeah. If I know the one you're talking about, in the very southeast, those did get removed from the drought. They improved in conditions after that rain. But again, depending on one rain and a lot of runoff isn't going to recharge those aquifers and that shallow groundwater as much. It's helpful without question, but it sometimes takes more than just one event for that groundwater to be recharged.
Very interesting. Randall Doning from the DNR. So appreciate you making the time today.
Thank you.
All right, that was Randall Doning talking about drought conditions across Minnesota. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back after this. Welcome back. Over 100 salmonella cases have now been reported in Minnesota, with the Minnesota Department of Health linking the cases to jalapenos served at Mexican restaurants. 75% of the people that responded to the inquiry by MDH said that they ate at Chipotle. Chipotle has now pulled jalapenos from their menu in a story that has really gone viral in the last couple of days. Ryan Osterholm.
I just want to I just want to say, how can you go to Chipotle and not get jalapenos? Like, I feel like that's a must get on whatever you get at Chipotle. So what are they going to do?
Well, Paul, I know you're not originally from here, but I think a lot of Minnesotans would disagree with you. They don't like spicy. I don't like spicy. It's a no jalapeno for me.
At least 100 Minnesotans disagree with me. At least.
Okay, that is true. I can't disagree with you on that. All right, Ryan Osterholm is an attorney who is representing some of those victims of this salmonella outbreak. Ryan, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So you have filed a lawsuit against Chipotle linked to this salmonella outbreak. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. We filed a lawsuit against one of the clients that was made terribly ill from eating at Chipotle in Roseville.
What were your client's symptoms? I mean, what happened to them, and how soon after ingesting the jalapenos did this happen?
So about a day or two after eating there, which is exactly what we'd expect for salmonella. And then unfortunately, she became tremendously ill and was in septic shock and was hospitalized for several days. So she was very, very sick. And without, some serious medical intervention, things may not have gone so well.
And what is the legal claim here? I mean, obviously this is a lawsuit, a civil claim. So what is the claim here?
Well, I mean, certainly there's damages for a lot of medical bills, a lot of missed time from work, and of course what she went through. In terms of the legal aspects of the claim, the Chipotle is what we call strictly liable. They're warranting that this product is safe, and when it's not, and when something has salmonella in a ready-to-eat product like a burrito or a burrito bowl, you're legally liable for that defective product.
Is this common? I mean, that a restaurant can be held liable in a food contamination outbreak?
Absolutely, it is. And, under the law, restaurants are generally considered manufacturers. Of course, we don't know where these jalapenos came from, or who supplied them, or how they got contaminated. And that's one of the reasons that we filed this, is we want to find out.
Could this become a class action lawsuit?
Generally, no. We don't usually handle these as class action. Those are for cases where everyone kind of suffers the same injury. It's usually a financial injury, like you got ripped off, and everyone got ripped off on their bill for a certain amount of money. In these cases, the facts are just too different, and every case is different. Although we end up representing a lot of people in these outbreaks, there really is, each case is really handled individually.
Chipotle might say, and I don't know because I haven't talked to the Chipotle store in Roseville, but Chipotle might say, well, we trusted the supplier. So why go after the restaurant when I'm just guessing Chipotle will probably blame the supplier of the jalapenos?
Well, actually, under the law, that's not how it works. You can't just say you are, we didn't, it wasn't our fault. The law also requires, and the Food Safety Modernization Act does require that you take some proactive steps. You need to know what you're selling the general public. And when you are warranting that the food is safe, whether implied or explicitly, you are responsible for the ingredients that go into your product.
What could the restaurant have done, in your opinion, to make these jalapenos safe to eat?
Well, I mean, certainly we're going to be looking at their testing protocols, their sanitation protocols, their sourcing protocols. Where were they buying these from? What farms or producers were they buying these from? And what due diligence did they do to make sure that these were safe? Obviously weren't safe. the fear is that this is the tip of the iceberg. We've seen this before, and it's very routine where these outbreaks kind of start. And thankfully, the Minnesota Department of Health is fantastic. They are, without a doubt, the best foodborne illness health department in the country. And they're the ones who solved this. It wasn't CDC, it wasn't FDA, it was Minnesota. But we're pretty sure that there are a lot of cases in other states that just haven't really been linked up yet. It's just that Minnesota Department of Health is a little bit ahead of the game here. And frequently, they're the ones who solve these national outbreaks just based off of the cases from Minnesota. So I would not be surprised if this turns into an outbreak of thousands of people. Knowing just about the distribution, we know there's cases in Colorado based off of what's publicly available for the genomic matches for this salmonella. There's about 400 people that have this exact same strain of salmonella in about the last month, which means that they all got sick from the same place, ostensibly the jalapenos. And so we certainly believe that there's going to be a lot more cases. To the extent that these jalapenos are still in the stream of commerce, we just don't know. They have a little longer shelf life than, say, something like iceberg lettuce. But, it is a perishable product. Hopefully, this is all kind of out of the stream of commerce, and restaurants and people aren't still using these. But that's part of the thing that's so hard is we don't know. At this point, would I say you should eat jalapenos from a restaurant or a store? I'd say probably not until we know exactly what these were. And then hopefully they can be safe, because I am one of those Minnesotans that does, in fact, like jalapenos. Fortunately, my garden is producing quite a few jalapenos right now, and I feel pretty darn good about those being salmonella free.
Those are certainly probably the safest option right now. Chipotle has said that it has removed jalapenos from the menu at several stores. Do you believe they have an obligation to remove jalapenos off the menu at all locations? And how would that work, especially with franchises?
Well, Chipotle is generally not franchised. So generally speaking, all the product comes from kind of central warehouses or central buying. So the stores don't usually have much say individually in what they are getting. It's kind of what the corporation gets them. That's a tough call. I mean, to say no jalapenos at all, I don't know, that may be a little much. But that's one of the hard things, is when we don't know what we don't know, and I don't know what Chipotle knows. And if they feel confident that they've done their due diligence in figuring out which exact product this was, I'd say that they're probably making the right call. And I know they've got some pretty smart people working for them in food safety, and so that's why it's unfortunate that this happened again. Because as we know, or most people know, Chipotle has had some pretty serious food safety problems in the past, and I know that they've been working hard to try to clean up their act.
Off the backs of the cyclospora outbreak, I mean, do you think we just need to avoid chain restaurants?
I don't think that chain restaurants are inherently more dangerous, to be honest. People frequently ask me, what is it? You're a foodborne illness lawyer. This is all I do is foodborne illness, and what do you not eat? I said, honestly, it's hard to say, other than like raw milk or something like that. There's not a lot that I really seriously avoid. No, I do not think that it's more, inherently more unsafe. One good news is that MDH kind of did say that Chipotle certainly was cooperating with the investigation, whereas in the cyclospora outbreak, with Taylor Farms, all the indications that we got were that Taylor Farms was not being super cooperative in the investigation. But again, there's a lot more we don't know than what we do know.
Interesting. Ryan Osterholm representing a victim of this salmonella outbreak linked to Chipotle restaurants. Thanks for coming on the show, Ryan.
Really appreciate it. Thanks.
All right. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back after this. Welcome back. Well, it's a beautiful day outside as we've turned down the heat a little bit and let those blue skies shine through. Erica Mrazek joins me now. Erica, what we got on tap for today?
Today on tap, just more sunshine, more mild weather. It's just beautiful today. So area of high pressure keeping the region pretty quiet for your Wednesday. So really midweek mellow for today. Barely any clouds out there, and it's just a wonderful day to go outside. Temperatures are mild, dew points are low, so overall it's really comfortable. 79 so far here in the Twin Cities metro, typically about 82 for your high temperatures. So just a touch below average for the beginning to middle of August. And overall across the state, mostly 70s, a few 80s, 80 for Brainerd, Detroit Lakes for the high temperature, 79 here in the Twin Cities, and even 81 in Hinckley, but everyone else pretty much those 70s, which still sitting at the 70s as we're still in the early hours of the afternoon. And it feels just like the air temperature because those dew points are in the 40s, so it's not feeling extra sticky outside, and also the wind is light, so it's not like it's very breezy either. So just all in all, gorgeous day. great lake day. There's White Bear Lake, a few people out there on the dock doing some fishing. Overall, just amazing for today and tomorrow. Also looking to be fairly nice, perhaps a few more clouds, but still overall nice day. Starts to get a touch warmer on Thursday, and there also could be a tad more wind, especially north and west. And then in terms of your next chance for a shower or two, that's looking like it could be late Thursday in northwest Minnesota, but then better chances for the metro late Friday afternoon in southeast Minnesota into Friday evening. But overall, those are very isolated, so there's not going to be very high chances for that. They're few and far between, but they are there for the end of the work week, and then into the start of next week, there perhaps could be a few more chances for a couple isolated showers late Saturday, perhaps Sunday, and 2 parts of Monday, Courtney. So overall, the rain chances are limited. They are there. It's not going to be a major rainy day, Courtney, but there are just a few. And then for today, just lots of sunshine and beautiful weather. Courtney.
Erica, thanks so much. Sorry, it took him a minute to bring up my mic, but I was responding to you.
What did you say?
I just said, looks good. Beautiful.
It does.
I was distracted. I was distracted because we got a picture in from Dawn Mitchell, who's out at Vikings training camp. She was talking about this wonderful popsicle that they were having, and I'm trying to get it so that we can show it here. I mean, it's the perfect temperature for a popsicle, right?
It really is.
Look at that. Photojournalist Scott Keller, Fox 9 sports anchor Dawn Mitchell, enjoying their popsicles there on a hot day in Eagan, Minnesota. Good for them.
Who doesn't want to be out there having a popsicle? That's where I want to be.
And it's not too hot, so it's not going to melt too fast.
That's right.
So you can eat it in a proper time frame.
Hot topic when Dawn was live talking about her popsicles was whether you can bite into the popsicle, Erica. So do you chomp into the popsicle,
No.
or are you purely a licker?
Purely liquor. I do not chomp I don't chomp because then your teeth freeze.
Well, I'm just too impatient. I'm way too impatient. I can't just lick. You got to take a couple chomps. My kids really hate it because I'll be like, "Can mommy have a bite of your popsicle?" It's like, no, you're gonna eat the whole thing.
You have to just get your own.
Yeah, I
They don't
usually
wanna
do.
share with you.
I usually do. I might need to get to Vikings training camp and get one of those. They look good.
Yeah.
All right, Erica, thanks so much.
Thanks.
All right, Paul Milgate, we're going to take a quick break, right, and then come back? Okay, we have to play the clip. That's what I was wondering. All right. Okay, so all week here at Fox 9 All Day, Rob Olson has been interviewing the governor and Senate candidates for office. So this all comes ahead of the primaries that are taking place this upcoming Tuesday. Today, he interviewed the Republican candidate for U.S. Senate, Adam Schwarze. Here's that conversation.
We can hear him. Okay, all good to go. Let's bring in Adam Schwarze. You know, again, this is our series of conversations with candidates ahead of the primaries, which occur next Tuesday here in Minnesota. And so we've invited candidates who are polling 5% and higher to join us for 10 minutes here on All Day Live. And Adam Schwarze joining us from Farm Fest. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to join you.
Yeah, so first of all, let's talk a little bit about your biography. Before we get into the issues, we'll try to make this quick so that we can maximize the amount of time talking about issues. But born in St. Paul, raised in Bloomington, played hockey, 9/11 happened. You turned 18 about 6 weeks later, and on that day, joined the Marines.
Yeah, I joined on my 18th birthday, raised my hands, swore an oath to defend our Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and I've made good on that oath to this day. I did 10 years as an infantry, as an enlisted infantryman. I did all 5 phases of Operation Iraqi Freedom through some combat deployments. Did some time serving at U.S. embassies around the world, doing diplomatic things, and did both those things well enough to get accepted to a meritorious commission to become an officer. Came back home to University of Minnesota, and then commissioned in 2012 and achieved my lifelong dream, became a United States Navy SEAL, and did my last 11 years in the SEAL teams. So in total, 9 deployments, 75 countries. I think I have more time downrange than anybody else serving in Congress or Senate. So I've got some good real-world experience and acumen. And then at the end of my military career, finished up with my undergrad here at the U, as I said, got a couple advanced degrees. I have my master's in international relations from Harvard. Also have a master's certificate in nuclear deterrence and a master's certificates in international security, also from Harvard. have my MBA from Johns Hopkins, and I'm finishing up a master's in public policy as well from Johns Hopkins. So kind of a boots on ground guy in the theater of war, all phases of operational experiences, working with federal government from all the 3 other agencies, and then turned into a nerd at the end of my career.
Yeah, busy life, and to be a Marine and a Navy SEAL as well, interesting, and then your advanced degrees. What have you done then since you got out of the military? What is your current occupation?
Well, I'm running for U.S. Senate, and I've taken, in about 18 days of campaigning, 6 days off. So six days off in 18 months. It's been a long road to get to this point. I'm really blessed that having been on the road more than anybody else running for statewide office this cycle on either side of the aisle, I've had the opportunity to learn a lot. Like I'm at Farm Fest right now. For the last month, I've just been traveling all around Minnesota, visiting with people's farms. In combat, you don't learn unless you're at the point of friction. And so being with Minnesota farmers, being with the Minnesota constituents who I want to fight for and serve in Washington has been great.
Yeah.
In between, from when I retired in 2023 until I started the campaign officially, I was the face of Conservatives for a Stronger America. It was just an issue advocacy to talk about things like the importance of having strong borders, putting American citizens first, how if we didn't combat the Iranian proxies that, under Biden, how we would have to face them in a much more frontal way like we ended up having to do during the Trump administration.
Let's talk about some of the issues here. One of them, you say that public schools are failing. Education, obviously, always a very important campaign election issue. In what way are they failing? In what way do they fix them? Do you support more money for public schools, or are you supporting shifting through vouchers, potentially, money to private schools?
Yeah, that's mostly a state issue. I'm running for U.S. Senate. So obviously, I've listed off all my education credentials. I love education, but the federal Department of Education is plainly, it's just a bad investment of your tax dollars, of American citizens' tax dollars. I think that all of your tax dollars, the further it leaves from your house, the worst investment off. So for me, as Reagan said, the best tax dollar is the one that never leaves your bank account. That's how I think the federal government should be run. Just smaller government holistically, and then you have less taxes. Minnesotans know this acutely. The majority of your Minnesota tax dollars are frauded. We had $24 billion, I think, in spending that was all frauded, where we had an $18 billion surplus. We're now on track for a multi-billion-dollar deficit. That was because of too much taxes. And that was state taxes. When you think about now from the federal level, it's even orders of magnitude. So I'll be running against likely Peggy Flanagan in the general election. She's an open socialist. So where I think power should be at the American people, power should be at the individual family level. We should have less government, more control at your family level. She thinks that the government should just have more taxes, more control, less family, less faith. Part of the communist objective, part of the socialist objective is, take out faith out of the churches and put it in the government. So there's really some large contrast between myself and my Republican challengers like Michelle Tafoya, who's openly, wants to march on Washington for abortions and supports red flag gun laws. I identify as a constitutional conservative. And, part of the foundational rights as being a constitutional conservative is supporting Second Amendment rights. So some big contrast between myself and my other primary opponents, and then certainly likely Peggy Flanagan, who's just the other end of the scale for how we think government should support the American citizen.
Yeah, when you talk here about that the government is too large, that things need to be shrunk in some of those, you talk about some of your issues are that small businesses are potentially over-regulated, that there need to be tax credits for small businesses. Same thing with family farms, that these are the backbone. I mean, what is your pitch for how do you change that, and how does that improve our economy?
Yeah, well, I mean, you just said something really important, sir. Is the family farms? As somebody who's traveled all around Greater Minnesota, my main ag policy is to make sure that we find a way to make sure these family farms, or third-generation family farms, can make them into a fourth-generation family farm. And that doesn't happen if we give our lands to China. We sell our lands to China. If we put a solar farm on top of their good farming land, or if we don't support American farming. And as an American first guy who wants to focus money only on things that are national security issues, well, farming is a national security issue because food security is a national security issue. When it comes to regulation, you said it best. The regulation is killing families. That's both state and federal regulation. I'm just a get the government out of the way kind of guy. I think that Minnesotans, well, they want to do the right thing. They want to be left alone. They want to have the opportunity for success and succeed. And government red tape is getting in that way. And that's what I oppose. I oppose the government getting in the way of people.
Types of regulations might you be referring to or targeting that you say are over restrictive?
Yeah, so thanks for allowing me to expand on that. So I'm a military guy, obviously. I've got more time downrange than anybody serving in Congress, so I'll be a good fit for the Senate Armed Forces Committee, which is a multi-trillion-dollar budget. I'll be a great fit for the Senate Intelligence Committee because of my time as a mission commander on intelligence operations. But the most excited committee that I'm excited to work on in the U.S. Senate is in energy. I want to promote nuclear energy. We have a federal nuclear moratorium. It's impossible to get nuclear things off the ground. And I don't like wars as well. I want to make that very clear. I'm a no wars guy. Well, the majority of large scale wars are fought over energy. And so I can do two of my passions, stopping wars from happening and promote nuclear energy and promote American foreign entanglements. But I want to increase our foreign assets and foreign relationships built off commerce. And so I want to make Minnesota the worldwide capital of the world for nuclear energy. Well, that's a great thing when you're talking about all the different forms of energy that both Democrats and Republicans want to put on the grid. The only thing that gets us there is nuclear power in the scale needed for America's future.
Let's talk about trade quickly. We're just down to our last couple of minutes. You want to expand trade for manufacturing, to boost manufacturing for Minnesota and for the U.S. What is your view on how the tariffs that have been put in place under the Trump administration, how they impact that? Are they working? Do things need to be changed there to help benefit manufacturers?
Yes, some of the tariffs have been working, some have not worked as quickly as others. But the so what from Trump's tariffs policy is to move the status quo in the lane of America first. And that's kind of been Trump's lane throughout his entire time as president, is taking the status quo and make it more America first. So how we redid the NAFTA agreement with our North and Southern trading partners to the USMC to all these different trade tariffs, the intent of them is to make it an even playing field. The majority of them have been what's called reciprocal tariffs, which is making it an even playing field for American interests, American business interests abroad. And that's what I'm for. I'm for any tariff that promotes American business interests abroad and makes it a level playing field. And I think that's another thing that Trump does that I'm 100% on board with, is making that Minnesota manufacturing, making American manufacturing work for Americans, no longer being reliant on all these foreign entities, because COVID taught us that. COVID taught us that we can't sell out American goods for Chinese cheaper goods for foreign labor when we can't be relied on. And that's also a national security issue, by the way.
Yeah, and then one last thing, we're down to our last minute. You were at Farm Fest. There's a forum at 1:15. You are not part of that forum because they're saying that you're not polling high enough. I think there had been an accusation that you had maybe spread the word the forum was canceled. It is not. What is your feeling about not being able to participate in this and the accusation that you may have spread information that it was not happening?
We're semantics on the word canceled because this was canceled as the only Republican forum. This was the only forum that the D.C. candidate Michelle Tafoya had agreed to debate at. And this decision for her not to debate or for them to exclude me after we had already had an invitation to debate was not made in Minnesota. It was made in D.C. to provide cover because she has never debated once. And so there's two kind of things that are newsworthy, actually, is in the history of Farm Fest. Never has Farm Fest excluded a major party endorsed candidate from the debate stage on either side of the aisle. That happened because of a decision in D.C. And Michelle Tafoya, because she doesn't have the qualifications or the values of the Republican Party, the D.C. establishment, her campaign headquarters in D.C., also has done everything they can to make sure that her own policy positions, as well as mine, cannot be had in the public square.
Okay.
Because Republicans know that we support life.
Adam?
We support Second Amendment, and we support Americans over amnesty for illegals, and she supports all those wrong side of the aisle issues. So it's sad that the primary voters are being disenfranchised through this action today.
All right, Adam Schwartzy, U.S. Senate candidate, GOP endorsed at Farm Fest today. Thank you for logging in from Farm Fest and appreciate the time.
All right, you were just listening to a conversation between our very own Rob Olson and U.S. Senate candidate for the Republican Party, Adam Schwartzy. Tomorrow, Rob will be interviewing Mike Lindell, one of the Republican candidates for governor, as we continue interviewing each candidate ahead of Tuesday's primary. And if you missed any of those interviews, you can always find them on our website, fox9.com, or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Fox9. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to revisit one of our biggest stories of the day, which is the encampments that have started to be cleared in St. Paul. So officials have said that these are health and safety risks, and so they have kicked out the residents of the Pigs Eye Park encampment. After the break, we're going to talk to an individual who has been doing some outreach with those individuals and opposes these sweeps. Stay right there. Earlier today, officials in St. Paul dismantled the Pigs Eye Park encampment. We've been talking about this all afternoon, but residents of that encampment are now displaced, some accepting services and beds, others spreading out to other parks across the city. Here to talk about these sweeps that started today, there's going to be 3 encampments that are dismantled through City of St. Paul officials. But this one was the first one, and here to talk all about it is Katie Pofferall. She's a outreach worker. She's been helping the individuals down there at Pigs Eye Park, and we're so grateful that she came on the show. Katie, thanks for coming on.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I greatly appreciate you giving me this opportunity to speak on this.
Absolutely. I assume that you were down there when these sweeps started at 8 a.m. Can you just tell me how things went throughout the day?
So unfortunately, I wasn't able to be down there today. We have been going down there on a regular basis, handing out resources and getting things out to individuals in preparation for today.
And what have the residents in Pigs Eye Park been telling you about their home there and why they maybe don't want to leave?
There's a lot of people who are scared. There's a lot of people who don't know what tomorrow brings or what's next. Having stability, one of the things that is fearful for people is if they're going to be moved around, if they're not going to be within that community of people who is there to help protect each other, is there going to be a stable bed for them tomorrow? It's really just that fear of the unknown.
And some would say that while it feels comfortable for them, it's actually not a safe environment for them. There have been hundreds of fire and police calls to the park. How do you respond to that when people say, well, it's not safe and it's a health risk?
My honest response is that, there are health risks and there are dangers, whether it is in an encampment or it is at someone's residence. There are tragedies that can happen no matter where we are located. There are a lot of people that are in that area. So, those things are going to happen, and it is tragic when it does happen.
We have our reporters who are on the ground have talked to shelters who say they actually don't expect a big influx of people coming to their shelters because these individuals maybe don't want to be in a shelter. Can you explain that to me? Because you have talked to these residents. Why is it that they don't want to accept a shelter bed?
One thing that I have learned in the, many months of working with individuals is that a lot of them have had bad experiences at these shelters or just resources in general. And I think that when you are a vulnerable individual and you've had letdowns or you've had resources that just, portray themselves to be there or they say they will be there and, errors come and occur, that it makes it hard for people to feel that they can trust those resources. It creates a wonder of, again, that uncertainty.
Where do these people go now?
Well, that's a wonderful question. There's people who are going to be going into the shelters. There are people who are trying to get placement for housing. There are people who are going to be migrated to other encampments. One of the things that is a hard challenge is that there are a lot of women who have dogs. And there are, I believe there's one shelter that offers your animals to be with you. And so that's a really difficult one for individuals to navigate.
Do you think that the city and cities, across the country, we see Minneapolis doing this as well. Do you think that they can ever completely get rid of encampments, or will people find shelter where they choose to?
I think that it can go both ways. I think that people who are going there, I think that it can go both ways. There are going to be people who are comfortable living the way that they are. And there has been people living off of the land for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. For some people, that is also generational. We have generational homelessness. And so for some people, that's all they know and that's all they're comfortable with.
What do you say to the people who say we can't allow, open drug use and people living on public land, that it's a problem for the neighbors around there, it's a problem for people who want to use the park? What do you say to those people?
I would say, too, one thing that I really cannot stress enough is that we have this misconception that everybody down there is on drugs, and that is not the case. There are people down there with stories, and once you get to know them and you hear their stories and you understand where they're coming from, your perspective changes a lot. It's really heartbreaking to see so many people make that assumption. And I understand that that is a part of the human condition, is to have those assumptions that we know why they're there. But I really would encourage people to, have the heart to love without judgment and, get to know these people, their stories, where they come from, what, ended up having them, end up there. Those are really important things.
How did you get involved in this?
Well, God put it so heavily on my heart one day that we were going to go feed people. I was like a little nervous to just go out into an environment that I wasn't familiar with. But that was what I was being tugged to do. And so we started going down and feeding people. We've fed over 6,000 meals, and we're going to continue to do that. It's just about meeting people where they're at and just loving without judgment and trying to get an understanding of what their needs are. It became very clear very quickly the lack of resources that are available. There is a misconception that there's so many resources. However, I myself had spent many times trying to get individuals into a shelter for the night, and I myself couldn't even get them in, and that was heartbreaking to watch.
Wow, good on you. Have you watched people accept help in the last month since they announced that this closure was going to happen and outreach workers have descended on Pig's Eye Park? Have you seen people accept help and shelter?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are people who have decided that they wanted to go to treatment. There's people who have gotten into their housing that they had been on a wait list for since, January. And so people are slowly finding, their way through these things. Part of the problem is, there are so many people, right? And the housing that's available is very minimal. And it takes a lot of jumping through hoops to be able to get on to the waiting lists for those. And, we have individuals who would show up to pick up their keys, and then all of a sudden they're told, well, no, we have another inspection, or we're going to do this, or we're going to do that. And so you have these individuals who then give up everything that they have to go into their place and then find out that their place is yet again not available, which is horrible to watch, especially when, you've seen it happen to them time and time again.
Yeah, tough all the way around. Katie Pufferall, I so appreciate you joining the show and for your outreach work that you're doing in St. Paul. All right, we are going to take a quick break. We'll be back after this. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. Well, as we round out our show today, some quirky news to bring you. Every state has their deadliest animal has been listed. So this was an article in USA Today where they listed every state's deadliest animal. Paul Milgate, can you guess what Minnesota's was?
Well, I assumed moose.
That would be a good guess.
That's what I assumed, but then I looked at the list and I was really shocked to see it was coyote.
I've never heard of a coyote attacking a human, so this is quite bizarre. I thought it would be bear.
Yeah, well, I think what I couldn't get my head around, I read the article, I skimmed, I was looking through it. I couldn't work out whether it was like, is it the most dangerous or with the most possibility of being deadly, or is it the thing that kills the most people? And it didn't seem to tell me the answer. I know that if you head to Fox 9, check us out on our socials at Fox 9, our social media guru, Rob, he was going around asking a bunch of people about their thoughts on what they think the most deadly animal in Minnesota is. And I don't think many people said coyote.
Hold on, get this. In Alaska, do you want to know what the deadliest animal is? Dogs. There is something wrong with this study.
This list, we need to get to the bottom of it. Someone find the person that did this research, because I don't like it.
Dogs.
Like Rhode Island, tiger shark.
Wow, okay.
I mean, I don't know if they're just trying to rage bait us. They're just trying to get us to like talk about it on a show like this.
Absolutely.
Maybe that's exactly what they're trying to do. And they succeeded. What a day of news today, Courtney Godfrey.
Truly was a busy day of news. We talked about encampments, we talked about Farm Fest, Target Field concession workers being on strike, brought you another candidate that's running for, this one was running for U.S. Senate, but we've been bringing you these all week, so we brought you another one of those today. Busy, busy day.
Busy, busy day, and the news continues right after this.
That's right. We'll see you all tomorrow.
This is Fox 9 News at 5.
Let's start, though, with Chief Meteorologist Ian Leonard. He's going to join us here in a second. But, whoa, what a great day out there today it was, huh? Another beauty, low humidity, and just a beautiful summer day.
Yeah, and we want to go ahead and start with some of our top headlines tonight. St. Paul City crews spending the day clearing out a large homeless encampment at Pig's Eye Park. Emily Pofall has reaction from activists, and the big question is surrounding the sweep. Where do these people now go? And then Farm Fest underway today as well in southwest Minnesota. Today, candidates for governor and U.S. Senate made their case to the public. Also